So we've been using the sauna for a while now. We actually first fired it up on Thanksgiving. I'm still kind of catching up in the video production department, however. Getting around to the end, finishing details. Probably in the next video I'll cover some of the change room details, like the cedar chest we use for storing towels, peg rail for hanging things, and the little mirror cabinet that mostly hides the electrical panel. But today, the focus is on making the sauna benches. So I guess this is kind of a spoiler alert, given that I haven't shown you the construction yet, but these are the benches. We've been living with them for a while. Am I happy with them? For the most part, yeah. A little bit of a compromise. You need a certain amount of clearance from the wood stove, so they weren't quite as deep as I would like. I may still add a little bit of width up in this area so I can lay down and have enough room for my shoulders. The bench is 20 inches wide. I think it would be better if it were 24 inches wide. I like the little headrests I made. This one's kind of cool. It's got a little ridge in it that sits in a groove between the boards that makes a nice backrest if you want to lay this way and prevents the thing from sliding out from underneath you. So with that, let's get into the construction process. For the benches, I continue to draw on my stash of eastern white cedar that was cut from my dad's farm in southern Ontario. Here I've already milled all of the cedar to 1.5 inches thick, and I've started the process of cutting some of the parts for the benches. I'm building a series of simple rectangular sections that are joined at the corners with half-lap joints. The half-lap joints I'm cutting using my tenon jig at the table saw. I joined the half-laps at the corners using some glue and brads to hold things together while the glue dries. I then notch one corner of each of the sections using my bandsaw to allow space for the rail that mounts the benches to the wall. Then all the parts go out to the sauna for assembly on site. All the assembly is done using 2.5-inch deck screws, which I drive into holes that were pre-drilled using a drill bit with an integrated countersink. The skirt boards for the lower benches I made up of the same 3/4-inch thick tongue and groove white cedar paneling that we used for the sauna walls. Around the front edge of the lower benches, I strung a heat and weather resistant LED light strip connected to a low voltage transformer and a Lutron dimmer switch. The same circuit controls LED strip lights above the beams as well as the lights under the benches. So that there was no exposed end grain, I used mitered corners at the ends of the benches, and the inside boards have stub tenons cut on each end, which fit into grooves cut into the outside boards. The mitered corners I reinforced with some number 20 biscuits. I cut the pockets for those using my biscuit jointer. The grooves were 1 inches deep and 1/2 inch wide, and I cut those using a set of stacked dado blades on my table saw. The upper bench was simply attached with rails that were screwed directly to the sauna walls. It's not shown here, but I did later decide to come back and add a 45-degree brace underneath the center of the upper bench. I then attached a 5-inch wide board to the front edge of the benches. That served both to stiffen the bench as well as hide the LED lights under the lower benches. I then glued in a series of wood plugs to hide the countersinked screw holes. So with the benches done, let's talk a little bit about the lighting details. For general ambient lighting, I put 4 LED puck lights, one between each of the rafters. These are on a Lutron dimmable switch. Most of the time when we're using the sauna, we find we actually rely more on the LED strip lights. I put the LEDs under the bench as well as LEDs over the beams, and it makes for a fairly nice sauna mood lighting. So in the next video, I will cover making the cedar chest that we use to store towels in the change room. I will also show you how I made the mirrored cabinet that hides the electrical panel, and the peg rails that we use for hanging fireplace tools, robes, and towels. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching.